Commissioner for Human Rights, Navy Pillay, has released its latest report finding that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. The commission, which has been investigating events on and since the Hamas attack on the 7th of October 2023, has concluded that Israeli authorities and its security forces committed 4 of the 5 genocidal acts defined by the 1948 Genocide Convention, which is at the center of South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Sharon Bryce Peace reports.
The Commission concluded that Israeli authorities committed 4 acts of genocide in Gaza, including causing serious bodily harm, deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about the destruction of Palestinians in whole or in part, and imposing measures intended to prevent births. The report further finds that explicit statements by Israeli civilian and military authorities and the pattern of conduct of that state's security forces indicated that the genocidal acts were committed with the intent to destroy Palestinians in the Gaza Strip as a group.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Faith Kepyegon in the hunt for a 4th global medal in Tokyo later on today. And the British Grand Prix will be one of the 6 sprint events on the next year's calendar for Formula One. We'll tell you more details at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's Audio Bouquet Channel 802, OpenView Channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
We are on OpenView's Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update Asks, we focus on the Kingdom of Eswatini, where the Swaziland Youth Congress and Pudemo will march to the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria in South Africa on Friday against what they say is the dumping of prisoners in Eswatini. Now, our question to you today is, what are your thoughts around the U.S. sending prisoners to Africa, especially if their home countries do not want to take them back? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Our Malawians are at the polls today in an election pitting President Lazarus Chakwera against his predecessor Peter Mutharika. Another 15 candidates, including former President Joyce Banda, are also contesting the presidency, but analysts expect a 2-horse race between 70-year-old Chakwera and 85-year-old Mutharika. If no one secures over 50% of the vote, there will be a second round. Now, our correspondent in Malawi, George Mango, now joins us on the line. George, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
A very good afternoon to you too. Thank you.
Now, George, talk to us about the voter turnout. What are the numbers looking like so far? Is everyone out in their numbers to vote?
Exactly. Quite a number of people are out, and I can confirm that most of the people that I've spoken to say that they've been lining up as early as 4 a.m., others 5 a.m., because voting is going to close at 4 p.m., so nobody is going to be allowed to vote at 4 p.m., except for those people that will still be queuing. And one key issue is that of age. Mutarika at 85, Chakwera somewhere around 70s. The uh, people that I've spoken to don't look at the issue of age. What they are talking about are issues of change, economic change, so that inflation, which currently hovers at 33%, should be lowered. That's according to even the presidential candidate Peter Mutharika, saying he wants to come back to revamp the economy. For Chakwera, it's more about revamping the agriculture sector, which a number of people say is already nosediving. And if you talk to some youths are more especially interested in job creation and also ensuring that the educational infrastructure is improved, because they're talking about enrollment in primary schools, in secondary schools. The ratio does not even tally a teacher to a pupil, ratio. So those are the key issues that people have spoken to in different, polling centers, more especially in Blantyre, have been talking about and are talking about as they continue lining up.
Now, you mentioned that the polling stations will be closing at 4 p.m. Central African time. For interest's sake, were all polling stations opened at the time they were supposed to? And are there any delays? Have there been any hiccups, or is everything running smoothly?
Since morning, more especially in Blantyre, where I've been visiting these polling centers, not much of some technical challenges or maybe logistical challenges have been spotted out. People are just voting pretty well. No challenges at the moment, because the presiding officers or even the observer mission teams are able to assist, more especially those people that are not maybe able to read. So they are able to be directed to do to say, you can do ABCD. This is where you have to go get your ballot. This is where you can go and vote. So everything is just moving on smoothly. I haven't heard of any challenge at the moment, but people are still indeed queuing in large numbers. The voter turnout is pretty convincing that really people registered. We're talking about 7.2 million Malawians. And of course, the southern region also contributes a lot to the figure of 7.2 million. So it's like a deciding day today. And possibly later in the day, I'll be also able to visit some other polling centers outside Blantyre, where definitely the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP of Peter Mutharika, Joyce Banda's People's Party, Dalisuka Bambe of UTM, are also indeed ensuring that they cast their vote.
Well, George, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and hopefully we'll be able to get further updates as the day progresses, because what will be interesting is to find out exactly where everyone stands towards the end of the day in terms of their views and their hopes going forward. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you.
Our correspondent George Mango speaking to us from Blantyre in Malawi, and also Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe is in Lilongwe, Malawi, and he now joins us on the line. Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Michael, are you there? All right, Michael, we seem to have lost Michael there for a second or two. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. I was muted
great.
under the instruction of our leader, Tracy. I'm back now. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm sure you heard the conversation with George
Yes,
Mango.
I was listening to my brother, George.
Yes. Now, tell us what's happening in Lilongwe. Are people out in their numbers? Did polling stations open on time? And, what's the mood on the ground?
I think it's almost identical to what my brother has alluded there, George Muhango. Things, according to my own observation since this morning, we've gone to, now I'm at the fourth polling station. Things have gone smooth. We have also witnessed the voting of, the President Lazarus Chakwera at Malembo Primary School. This is now in Kasungu district, which is not far away from the capital city, Lilongwe. It's about another 1.5 hour drive because we had to follow the president, who is now, the major talking point. But yeah, even there, the crowds overwhelming. We got a shock of our life when we saw, the crowd there. I've also already posted some, pictures of our social so that people can see for themselves. But now we are at Chigodi Primary School. Also a polling station outside of Lilongwe in Kasungu district. To paint the bright picture for us, I'm now joined by, a presiding officer. My leader, thank you so much. We are live on SABC's Channel Africa, an international African radio station. Please, for the sake of our leaders, our listeners, would you please introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Stanley White. I'm one of the presiding officers here at Chigodi Primary School, Kasungu South, Kasungu District, Kasungu South constituency.
Thank you, sir, for that introduction. So tell us, what time did you start your work here at this polling station this morning?
So here we opened our polling station at exactly 6 a.m. this morning. By that time, we had already, when we for making pre-opening procedures, people were already here in their multitudes. So when we immediately opened it, we went straight to voting procedures. Okay. We already had a lot of people.
Okay, you are talking about many people that flocked in this polling station in the morning. The demographics, were you having a mixture of the old, the young people, and I can see also in front of me many are women?
Yeah, of course, we had a mixture of people who came here earlier to cast their vote area so that they can leave this station to their routine activities. So they were the very old, extreme old, they were youthful, and also a lot of women. But priority was given to extreme old, those who have just recently given birth, as well as with comorbidities.
Okay, sir. So, talking about the equipment or the material, the voting material, what time did you receive this material here at this polling station?
So we received the material at this polling station on the 13th of October, or 13th of September, and we verified on the 15th of September. Yesterday, we also had a pre-polling process training with our polling staff as well as party representative and candidate representatives, so that when we start polling, we are doing the same things.
Okay, now tell us about the experience. Have you experienced any hiccup with the systems that you are using? I know you have that device. You might mention it better. What do you call it?
We are using a technology known as a biometric voter verifier system, where a voter is identified using his biometric systems like fingers, face, features, as well as the data which is already preloaded in the gadget. So this system is helping us a lot because a voter is just staying there a minute or two. We have identified that one. And the very good thing for us as presiding officers, it is exactly telling us where can we find that person in a manual register, and we are also verifying that one immediately, and then we ink that one, then we proceed to collect a ballot paper for voting.
In an event of this magnitude, of course, you will notice one or two things that could go wrong or did go wrong. In this instance here, have you noticed anything that has, a potential of disrupting, this process of voting? What can you tell us about anything that you've seen that didn't go right on your side, on the people's side, or anybody else who was trying just to, disrupt this?
Yeah, I will start with the one people's side. There were voters who came here to vote on behalf of their husbands. So we had to cancel them so that they just vote on their own, and the husband will have to make their own initiatives to vote. So the monitors, party representatives helped us to manage those situations. On the part of us, we had situations where some party representatives did not submit a list of accredited monitors. So in the first place, the procedure requires that the accredited monitors are the ones that have to monitor the elections. So we consult the district returning officer, who is always on our side giving directions.
Okay, for the interest of time, we leave it there for now. But thank you so much for giving us that perspective. We wish you all the best as voting progresses until 4 p.m. when the polls will close. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir. Lulu, you've heard it.
Yeah,
women
Michael,
coming to say, I'm coming to vote
to
for
vote for my husband.
husband.
That's a first.
Yeah, it talks about voter education, but yeah, you always have lessons to learn.
But
Lulu.
Michael, it also highlights the fact that they didn't make provision for people who could not go to the polling stations. So these are people now who are not going to be able to cast their ballots for whatever reasons. If they're not able to walk to the polling stations, then what happens to them?
And I think these are the questions that we need to pose to the leadership of the Malawi Electoral Commission. I mean, these are facts. I mean, this guy is a presiding officer, is leading the elections here where we are, and talking about that, I mean, I'm having goosebumps to say.
Well, Michael.
Lulu wants to vote for.
Well, Michael, we're going to leave it there for today, and we'll get updates from you as I guess the day progresses on Channel Africa with regards to what the way forward is in terms of the counting processes and when we should expect results start to trickle in after the voting. That's our reporter Michael Mbewe, who is joining us from Lilongwe in Malawi. It is 21 after 12 Central African Time.
This September, Channel Africa celebrates Heritage Month, a time to honor the stories, the rhythms, and the languages that make us who we are. Whether you're in Lagos or the shores of Zanzibar, to the mountains of Lesotho or the markets of Dakar, we are united in diversity.
Najivunia kuwa Mwafrika.
Kukondolera Afrika ndiye nto wake.
Proudly African and fabulous.
Let us preserve our languages. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's embrace our cultures and celebrate the beauty of our continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The Swaziland Youth Congress and Podemo will march to the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria on Friday against what they say is the dumping of prisoners in Eswatini. In July, the United States deported 5 detainees to Eswatini. The detainees are believed to be nationals from Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, Yemen and Vietnam. And to tell us more about the march, we are joined on the line by Khawegazi Kumalo, a convener of Swazi Lives Matter. Khawegazi, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. All right, we seem to have, we're getting Khawegazi on the line. There seems to be some network issue, but is she on the line? Khawegazi, good afternoon. I'm told you are on the line. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Khawegazi, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, great. Okay, great stuff. Thank you for joining us and good afternoon to you. Now, tell us more about this march and what you're hoping will come out from it.
Well, the march is really to protest against the USA criminals who have been imported into Swaziland. These are hardcore criminals, as we've read from reports in the United States, who are being imported and hosted by the Swaziland government. And we are delivering a petition at the USA Embassy and really calling for the USA Embassy to stop deals with the Swazi regime, because we also know that there's a $500 million that has been paid to the Swazi government for these criminals. And so the petition really is about us asking the United States of America to not use Swaziland as a backyard for convicted criminals from the USA. We are going to be marching with the SWAYOCO, which is the Swaziland Youth Congress, including many organizations in the Mass Democratic Movement of Swaziland. We also have our allies in South Africa, your ANC Youth League, your SACP, and many other allies that are going to be supporting us in solidarity for this call on the 19th of March in Pretoria.
And what are the chances of your memoranda, or are you going to be handing over a memoranda of, questions or demands, or, and what if it's not, taken by the U.S. Embassy from whatever angle they come out from, because now they're literally being put on the spot?
Yes, we have to put them on the spot. We have to expose them. And that is fundamentally what we are doing. Whether or not they decide to accept the memorandum is really a decision that they can make. However, we would have played our role in terms of ensuring that we expose the United States of America, and therefore anything and everything that comes out of we would have played our role.
And have you managed to get any more information from the government of Eswatini with regards to this particular deal?
You see, one of the issues and what we've been always calling for is the legitimacy of what we call the government of Eswatini. There is no government. It is a royal rule. And so you're not going to get any information. There's no transparency. We don't know what this deal entails. We also have seen reports and them actually saying that they are expecting 150 more of prisoners. So we have not received any information. We will not. This is how the royal supremacy in Swaziland operates. What we presume as a government is only just a facade of what a government is. I mean, this bill also was not tabled in Parliament. It was a decision by King Mswati III that was cascaded down and implemented as we see it now.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the 150 more said prisoners to be sent to Eswatini, is this another deal, or is it part of the $500 million that has already been allegedly paid to the government of Eswatini?
I can certainly tell you it's probably going to be another deal again. We do not have information around what this deal entails, so we can't say for sure right now whether it's part of or not, or whether it's a different deal. But I can assure you that there's much more money that's going to be spent by the United States of America in order to have these prisoners come beyond the $500 million that we're talking to now.
Now, Kawagazi, just for interest's sake, with you being in South Africa and embarking on this protest action, what is happening in Eswatini?
Right now, we know the current state in Eswatini does not allow for us to have protests. We know the brutality of the government. The civic space is not open. We're not able to exercise our rights for freedom of expression, freedom of association, and that includes peaceful protests. So we're unable to undertake such protests at the moment inside Swaziland. It's part of advocacy, the work that we're constantly doing, to say we have a problem inside Swaziland. We want to be able to have the protests. However, the space is completely closed, and the government is very brutal in terms of response in any way where you have activists who are trying to call for and express that openly and publicly. So we're unable to do that at this moment, and hence we're saying we cannot keep quiet. Silence is not an option for us. Let us come to South Africa, to the United States of America, and we do want the world to see also why we're not able to hold such grievances with the government inside Swaziland.
Kawagazi, thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That's Kawagazi Kumalo, convener Swazi Lives Matter, joining us on the line. They are embarking on a protest to the U.S. Embassy with regards to the prisoners sent to deported to Eswatini for an alleged amount of $500 million, and with another 150 more prisoners allegedly expected to also be deported to the country. country. It is 29 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Today on Hashtag Africa Update Ask, we focus on the Swaziland Youth Congress and Pudemo marching to the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria on Friday against what they say is the dumping of prisoners in Eswatini. Our question to you today is, what are your thoughts around the U.S. sending prisoners to Africa, especially if their home countries do not want to take them back? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 Hashtag Africa Update Us.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Looking at your headlines this hour, voting continues across Malawi today with over 15,000 polling stations open and operating smoothly. In a first briefing to the nation since the polls opened earlier today, Chairperson of the Malawi Electoral Commission, Justice Annabel Ntalimanja, has reported a satisfactory turnout. The High Court in South Africa's capital, Pretoria, has dismissed with course the leave to appeal by the family of the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu. The family wanted to appeal the High Court's judgment that ruled that the Zambian government is entitled to repatriate Lungu's body for a state funeral and burial. And an independent UN International Commission of Inquiry has released its latest report findings stating Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinsi.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with your latest sports news. At the Sawas, a triple Olympic champion Faith Kepyegon will be seeking to rewrite history today as she takes on the track, or rather to the track, for the final of the 1,500-meter event, aiming for a fourth global title in Tokyo. So having won this title back in 2017 and 2022, as well as in 2023, and holding the world record in the same race, the Kenyan has already enjoyed smooth sailing from round one until the semi-finals of this year's championships. She will be accompanied by the Diamond League champion Nelly Chepchere, as well as debutant US-based Dorcas Ewer. Now, Kepyegon will also aim to become the first woman to win 4 gold medals, as well as 3 consecutive titles in the 1,500-meter event. On to football news now. South Africa's men's national football team, Bafana Bafana, have been cleared of any wrongdoing by the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, following the controversy surrounding the fielding of Teboho Mokoena in the past match. So Mokoena was fielded in South Africa's World Cup qualifier against Lesotho in March of this year, when Hugo Bruce's men won 2-0, despite the fact that he had been suspended for the game. So from a number of rulings as well as disciplinary decisions released by FIFA on Monday regarding the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, Bafana Bafana are in the clear and they will not be facing any punishment. Now, South Africa lead their qualification group with 17 points, 3 ahead of Benin and 6 more than Nigeria, with 2 qualifying matches still remaining. Now, 4 points from the matches against Zimbabwe as well as Rwanda, or even 3, will still be enough to see Bafana Bafana qualify for the World Cup for the very first time since hosting it back in 2010. In local football news now, the South African Betway Premiership resumed on Sunday after a 2-week break for the international window, and the MTN 8 final also took place this past weekend, with Mamelodi Sundowns also going top of the log following a 3-0 victory over Magezi FC. But there are 2 teams snapping the heels of the Brazilians. That's, of course, Kaizer Chiefs as well as Sigukuna United, who clash at the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg later on tonight. So Chiefs Chiefs are enjoying their best start to the season in a decade, and the coach Nesruddin Nabi stressed the importance of maintaining the momentum against their Limpopo-based opponents. Not only are they playing at home, they also have coach Nesruddin Nabi back from Tunisia, where he spent some time with his wife following a serious car crash a month and a half ago. So here's coach Nabi speaking through an interpreter ahead of tonight's match.
I would say that I wasn't present physically, but I was present in the collaboration with my technical staff, because there are people that we follow the same game management, and probably because I have a technical staff that is competent, that's why there is no loophole that have been noticed in my absence.
Meanwhile, Amakosi have a near-perfect record at home this season. Of the last 4 matches played, they've won 3 and drew 1, and defender Zita Kwaniga says they are intending to keep it that way.
It's very important. I think this season, that's the other objective, to try get as much points as we can at home, because we feel like this is our home. This is where people, when they come, they must not get it easy. So it's very important. I think it gives us a motivation also just to keep going and get points as we can at home, because away it's a bit difficult. So when we're home, we must use that advantage.
And finally, in Formula One news, the British Grand Prix will be one of the 6 sprint events on next year's Formula One calendar. Now, Silverstone has last hosted a sprint race back in 2021, the year the format was introduced. Now, the biggest surprise is the addition of Singapore to the sprint schedule. The difficulty of overtaking at the street circuit does not automatically make it look like a natural fit for a sprint event. Now, the other races to hold sprints in 2026 will be China, Miami, Canada, as well as the Netherlands, which is dropping, off the calendar after next season. Now, the 2026 schedule features 24 races and will be published in was published in June of this year. Well, that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África @ newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon. In our top business story this afternoon, Nigeria's finance ministry has ordered the immediate suspension of a levy on all imported goods, which companies had said would raise the cost of doing business and stall economic recovery efforts. Finance Minister Wale Edun said in a directive issued late on Monday that the 4% free on-board levy introduced by the Nigeria Customs Service last month should be suspended to address concerns raised by businesses. He says the suspension will allow for a comprehensive review of the levy's framework and its broader economic implications. Higher Education Minister in South Africa, Buti Manamela, believes the escalating student debt is a potential crisis. Debt owed to the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is currently around $1.67 billion. Manamela says they have noted the withdrawal of the draft National Credit Act amendment regulations by Trade and Industry Minister Park Stow. The regulations would have seen the students who owed money to higher learning institutions being listed on credit bureaus. Manamela hopes the decision won't have implications.
We understood the regulations being released for public discussion, and we were planning to, as the department, to also make our submissions. We were quite concerned, and I had a conversation with Minister Tau about it, and he assured me that he will have conversations with the student movement, with the youth, and so on and so forth, and subsequently did. We, note that the regulations have since been withdrawn. We hope that it does not have implications on the other intentions that the regulations sought to achieve.
The National Liquor Traders Council of South Africa has called for scientific evidence into claims that the advertisement of alcohol contributes to road fatalities and domestic violence incidents. This follows the tabling of the Liquor Amendment Bill in Parliament, which seeks to ban the advertisement, promotion and product placement of alcohol across all media platforms. The bill also calls for the state to actively counter the normalization of alcohol use and curb alcohol-related harm by reducing the visibility and consumption of liquor. The council spokesperson, Lakindi Mane, says they reject the bill.
This remains a claim that cannot be backed by scientific research or let alone common sense. Because if you look at the proposal to ban advertising of alcohol, as it were, it's something that we believe is a shotgun approach. It doesn't really address the bigger issue that we all should be seized with, the abuse of alcohol in our country, which is a big problem. We do admit, however, that the approach needs to be rooted in science, and it needs to also be able to safeguard the issues of livelihood. It's a delicate balance that we need to strike. But banning alcohol is a very lazy approach, something that we totally reject.
The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board has approved a 3-month extension of Zambia's loan program. In a statement, the IMF says that the 3-month extension to the 30th of January 2026 would allow sufficient time to complete a 6th review of Zambia's extended credit facility and lay the groundwork for future program engagement. Secretary to Zambia's Treasury, Felix Nkulunkusa, says a request for a 1-year extension would be discussed at the time of the 6th review. Further afield, the world's 4th biggest company, Alphabet, which owns Google, has announced plans to invest $7 billion in Britain's artificial intelligence infrastructure. A $1 billion data center will formally open today outside London. Google's president, Ruth Porat, says the impact of AI would be profound.
AI can be a partner to make each one of us more productive. And in the healthcare area, you can see it firsthand. From the work that we've done, we see you can save ballpark 30% of their time that's devoted to administrative tasks. What if that's devoted to you as a patient? It's better for the nurses, it's better for the patient.
And now for a look at the indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,501 naira. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 19. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 33. And in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 87. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 35. Russia is 83 rubles 89. India, 88 rupees 27. China, it's 7 yuan 12. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 35 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading slightly higher at this hour at $3,696 per ounce and platinum at $1,411 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $67.27 a barrel. Those are your business news. I'll be back with another update in the next hour. For any business news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Buntle Hedbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
It is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our flooding in South Sudan is worsening, with humanitarian agencies warning that nearly 1.5 million people could be impacted this year. The UN Refugee Agency, the UNHCR, says the situation is especially dire in regions already affected by conflict and food insecurity. Lebogang Mabange has the story.
For the fourth consecutive year, South Sudan is experiencing severe floods that continue to uproot communities. Funmi Osibona from UNHCR in South Sudan says the number of people affected could rise dramatically if the rains persist.
For the past 4 years, the level of flooding across South Sudan has been quite severe, with entire communities uprooted. This year, if the rains persist, we are expecting to see around 1.6 million people impacted. And that's compared to around 1.4 million people who were impacted last year. We also expect to see around 400,000 families forced to flee their homes.
She says the hardest hit areas remain Jonglei, Upper Nile and Unity State regions already struggling with conflict and displacement.
Across South Sudan, Jonglei, Upper Nile and Unity states remain the most affected, impacting both people who reside in these areas, but also people who have recently been forced to flee conflict, both within South Sudan and those who have recently arrived fleeing conflict in Sudan. These locations, particularly these states, routinely impacted by flooding, with previous years leaving some of these states, like Unity State, with up to 70% of its land submerged in water, and this is forcing families to seek safety in higher ground.
Beyond displacement, the floods are wiping out livelihoods, destroying farmland and livestock, and worsening food insecurity.
Many of the locations that are experiencing heavy rains are also some of the locations across the country that are at risk of famine. Floodwaters have destroyed vast stretches of farmland and killed livestock and are essentially wiping out livelihoods for many families. Many families that we have spoken to have said that they were unable to flee with their cattle, and that this devastation is evidently compounding what is a very critical food insecurity situation for many vulnerable communities across these locations.
In response, UNHCR says it is working with partners to reduce the worst effects of flooding while also helping communities adapt to the changing climate.
With regards to our response, we are working with partners and communities to help prevent the worst impacts of flooding by building and repairing dikes to keep the floodwaters out. For those who have been displaced, we are providing emergency supplies. This includes emergency shelter materials. And we are also supporting families to adapt their livelihoods to this changing reality and encouraging fishing and providing communities with canoes.
Humanitarian agencies are appealing for more international support to meet the urgent needs of displaced families as floods worsen across the country. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
It is 12:47 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Human Rights Watch says 2 armed groups have killed several dozen civilians in 3 separate attacks in northern Burkina Faso since May 2025. The organization says these attacks violated international humanitarian law and are apparent war crimes. Ilaria Allegrozi, a senior Sahel researcher at Human Rights Watch, says the armed groups in Burkina Faso have been responsible for repeated atrocities against civilians since 2016. Now, she is on the line to discuss this further. It's a very difficult one that the Burkinabe are facing. Tell us more about the main findings highlighted in this report. And Eliara, good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for having me.
Our report is based on witness accounts and the analysis of other evidence, including satellite images and videos, and describes the recent attacks carried out by Islamist armed groups in Burkina Faso. We documented 2 deadly attacks by the Al-Qaeda offshoot Jenim and one by the Islamic State in the Sahel province. Overall, as you said, such attacks killed more than 50 civilians, including children and women. And I would say that this is just a partial snapshot of what's happening in the country, because the civilian death toll in the conflict in Burkina Faso is unknown, as there is no mechanism in place to track and count civilian casualties. But it is estimated that over 10,000 people have been killed since the insurgency began in 2016. I have to remember also that the conflict has displaced more than 2 million people in and outside the country, so causing a huge humanitarian crisis. And the attacks we documented also occurred in a context of renewed violence in Burkina Faso and also in the Sahel region more generally, with a considerable upsurge in jihadist activity in Burkina Faso, but also in Mali and Niger. And while the Jenim remains the dominant armed group in the region, the Islamic State in the Sahel has also been expanding its activity in the region significantly.
And what sort of response are you getting from the authorities in terms of reaction to this report?
We have sent letters to the Burkinabe authorities where we detailed our findings and requested answers to specific questions, but the government did not respond. In the past, the Minister of Justice had responded to our requests for information, but since almost a year now, all our questions have gone unanswered. And this is, of course, regrettable and concerning, since we are keen to keep the door open for dialogue and exchanges with the military junta. And I think it's in their best interest to provide information to human rights groups and the civil society. But these authorities appear to be increasingly intolerant vis-a-vis any forms of dissent, opposition, and scrutiny, and have also used the pretext of terrorism and instability in the country to suppress fundamental rights and freedoms, including, through arbitrary arrests, disappearances, and unlawful conscriptions of political opponents, human rights defenders, journalists, and even judges. So we got a response instead from the Jenim. The group responded to our request for information, and we published their response in full. I think it's crucial to give a right to reply to all concerned parties. We would have done the same if the government had responded to our questions, of course.
You touch on terrorism-related crimes, and going back to 2017, the Burkina Faso government established a specialized judicial unit against terrorism-related crimes. Has this unit been effective in any way? And does it still exist?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all suspects implicated in terrorism-related offenses are transferred to the Ouagadougou high security prison, and all their cases are investigated and adjudicated by this specialized judicial unit, which is based in the capital, was created back in 2017. It has dedicated judges, staff, and a trial chamber. However, investigations are moving very slowly, and the unit is facing several challenges, including, the lack of sufficient funds and personnel, which is an obstacle, and it's hindering its capabilities to deliver on its mandate, but also to ensure due process rights. And so the specialized unit was created almost 10 years ago, but only heard the first case in 2021. And then it took another year to hear more cases. So it would be extremely important for adequate resources to be allocated to this unit so it can function well and appropriately.
Is enough focus given to Burkina Faso when it comes to, the crisis that is unfolding there?
I don't think that the crisis has been given the attention it deserves. It's one of the most neglected humanitarian crises and conflict around the world, despite the severe situation faced by the civilians and the mass displacement of the population in and outside the country. I think the international community needs to keep an eye on Burkina Faso and raise its voice to address the very serious challenges in terms of civilian protection, but also justice and accountability for the crimes committed in the conflict.
And what has happened to the people that you have managed to interview and have conversation with regards to what they face in Burkina Faso?
Well, we spoke to witnesses to the attacks, to the families of the victims, and their accounts were often very chilling. People explained how they survived, they escaped either the Jenim or the Islamic State attacks when Islamist fighters shot at people indiscriminately or executed them in cold blood. That was the case, for example, of the attack in Djibo town in May, where the Jenim targeted civilians whom it accused of supporting or joining the VDPs, the civilian auxiliaries supporting the army in their counterinsurgency operations. It was a major attack. The fighters overran the military base. They looted the police and gendarmerie stations. They burned down several shops at the market, and they took control of the city for almost a day. And people were frightened. They hid in their homes for almost 3 days before coming out when the army actually came to secure the area. And during the attack, the fighters killed over 26 people. They entered several neighborhoods of the town. They went door to door. They massacred civilians, including women. And so you can imagine how people have lived these terrible moments. And of course, this attack left them with deep psychological and wounds and trauma.
And just in wrapping up, what is your appeal to authorities in Burkina Faso?
We think that the authorities should do more to address civilian protection and justice and accountability. I think it's crucial that the military authorities act on these issues soon because the government has an obligation to impartially investigate and prosecute those implicated in war crimes. So they should investigate, prosecute in accordance with, fair trial standards. All the members of the security forces and Islamist armed groups who have been responsible for serious abuses. They should promptly, also communicate the findings of these investigations. They have often promised investigations on some serious cases of mass killings, but so far investigations have stalled, and there's no public information available about whether anyone has been heard or arrested. So this is our main recommendation for the authorities in terms of the findings of our report recently, but more, generally our research.
Well, Ilaria, thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today.
Thank you.
That's Ilaria Allegrossi, Senior Sahel Researcher at Human Rights Watch, joining us on the line.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
A new study using artificial intelligence to analyze satellite imagery has reduced the estimated number of wildebeest in Africa's Great Migration to under 600,000, about half the long-standing figure of 1.3 million derived from aerial surveys. Reuters' Christy Kilburn has more.
Researchers from the University of Oxford, in collaboration with Princeton and other institutions, trained 2 deep learning models to analyze satellite imagery taken from Tanzania's Serengeti National Park and Kenya's Masai Mara National Reserve. The data, captured in 2022 and 2023, halved traditional estimates.
So we were quite surprised at our findings.
That's Isla Duporge, the study's lead researcher.
We don't think that there's been a population collapse necessarily, because we would find carcasses, scattered across the landscape, which is not the case. But perhaps the number has dropped naturally, as well as there being some discrepancy in the previous counts.
The models were trained on over 70,000 human annotated images. Traditional aerial counts rely on sampling narrow flight paths and extrapolating across vast areas, which can lead to inaccuracies due to uneven herd distribution. Satellite surveys may confuse wildebeest with similar-sized species, such as zebras. Duporge said it also emits huge amounts of data, making it tedious to manually count.
We can use the power of deep learning. And so in this study, we use 2 models. We use a pixel-based model and an object-based model to count the wildebeest in the satellite imagery.
Accurate counts are key for managing predators like lions and hyenas that depend on the herds. In the future, Duporge hopes the team will be able to analyze imagery on a daily basis to track migration in real time. The technique has been released as open source and could extend to other species like zebras and rhinos, offering a safer, scalable tool for global conservation monitoring.
And that was Reuters' Christy Kilburn ending that report. And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. Thank you for joining us, and continue with us on our social media platforms. From myself, Lulu Gaboo, our producer Tracy Bumgard, technical operator Nanda Koza, and social media Sfiso Hlope and talent Butelezi. It's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. SABC News.